density, and more. We meet here to offer solutions to all of these at Maroof. With our key motto, Cities Developing Solutions, all stakeholders of the city come together every 2 years since 2019. This year at Maroof, we focus on resilience and beyond. In the face of ever-changing circumstances, we embrace the possibility of building a life suitable for new conditions in an organic way, like life itself. Explore the depths of urban resilience and its transformative power, with urban roots, workshops, urban cinema, and many more. Come together with urban thinkers around passionate debates on how to make cities better on the 4th to 7th of October.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome to this global celebration of World Metropolitan Day. My name is Jordi Baquer. I'm the Secretary General of Metropolis, the World Association of Major Cities and Metropolitan Areas, which together with UN Habitat has been celebrating World Metropolitan Day since 2018. We are honored to be hosted this time by the Marmara Municipalities Union, the organizer of Maroof, the Marmara Urban Forum. You just saw the video, and I hope many of you, like me, had the opportunity to enjoy it. I need to congratulate the organizers for a fantastic event. We're honored to be part of it with this celebration. Without further ado, I'm gonna ask the President of Metropolis, the Mayor of Bogota, Claudia Lopez, to come on stage for some words of welcome.
Well, good morning to everybody. Thank you so much for our Marmara municipalities and region and in general for Turkey to its warm welcome to our celebration of the Metropolitan Day this year. It is such a great honor and pleasure to meet always with friends, public servants, elected officials from cities and big cities, metropolis around the world every year, to work together along the year, to build more sustainable, green, prosperous, just cities in the world. That's why we have Metropolis, our organization, who is glad to be hosted in the Marmara region and in Turkey for our global annual meeting this year. As we all know, the largest the cities, the largest the challenges, but also the largest the opportunities. And I think that's the most important message that we've working together to spread to the world, to the national states, to the development banks, to the global actors. We should be part of any conversation and decision-making about just green, inclusive, urban and regional solutions in this century. Half of the population lives already in cities. And it's just be in a couple of decades, it's just a matter of time, and short period of time, that share of the world populations living in cities and in big cities will grow enormously. Probably in a couple of decades will be more than 75% of the world's population. Being creative, innovative, and effective in nature-based regional and nature-based urban solutions is probably one of the most challenging and decisive factors for our cities and our citizens to grow. Multimodal public transportation based on clean energies, for example, is key to our cities. Almost in any city around the world, half of the emissions causing climate change are coming from the transportation sector in any city. So being able to move towards clean energy sources, replacing and making this transition from fossil fuels to clean energies in multimodal forms of public transportation, metros, regional trains, cables, buses, bikes, taking care of pedestrians, which is the first and for always mode of transportation in our cities. We are all pedestrians. In a city such as Bogota, Colombia, in which I have the pleasure to be the first female mayor to be elected ever, 1 out of 4 daily travels is made by pedestrians. We are so proud to be the biking capital of the world. We are an 8 million people city in which 8% of daily travels are done by biking in a 600 kilometers network of exclusive cycleways in the city. We're now building not only metro and regional trains, we are surrounded by beautiful mountains, so cables are also part of our transportation system. But also building green corridors, which is a nature-based solution, which I think is key. The 20th century, which is great invention of the car, forced every city to be built around big avenues, sort of the gray avenues of the 20th century, in which the majesty of the avenue was the car, fossil fuel individual cars. It is no longer sustainable to build our transportation mode daily based on individual, privately owned, fossil fuels moved cars. We should move rapidly to a public, multimodal, clean energy modes of transportation. A second challenge that we have is to re-green our cities. Jungles of cement is usually how cities are referred around the world. Well, we should be a more inclusive and sustainable and diverse cities. I love the colors of all the symbols that we use in this forum. And as you see in our image of this event, you know, there is people that is full of color, there are different modes of transportation, there are animals, you know, cats, which I've seen around this city. And it gives us an immediate signal and sense that we are aware that we humans are not the only ones in this planet, that we should take care of nature, animals, vegetables, that are also beings of this planet, and we must care, and we must design our cities taking care of them and providing them, they probably don't need a metro line to move around the city. They don't need a BRT or bus system to move around the city, but they need a biodiverse cities with different gardens, flowers, trees, being aware of how the wind moves around our city, how water moves around our city, to provide these other forms of life in our cities to be around, to be part. Without pollinizers, you know, small bees, we won't have food, we won't have biodiversity. So being aware of those other forms of life in our cities and building our cities, taking care of them, is crucial. Another angle that I want to mention today at the inauguration of our Metropolitan Day is also how we construct cities, how we build a circular economy. And a woman who's recycling in Bogota told me something that I think is quite obvious, but we should remind everywhere, every day, which is there is no garbage in this world. Everything is reusable. is recyclable. We should build a circular economy, not only to manage our residuals in a more intelligent way, in a more sustainable way, but it's also because it is a part of the economy, the green economy, the digital economy, the inclusive economy that our people, particularly women and youth, need in this time. It's from the digital, technological, green, circular economy where the jobs will come in this century. Those are the kind of jobs that the youth generation and women, who are the more social forces that need to be included in the labor force in this century, those are the kind of jobs they are hoping for. Well-paid, just, inclusive, with different skills and training. So as much as we want a rapid but just energy transition, we must care also for a just social and political inclusion. Everybody's voice has to be recognized and included if we want to build a good city. And another fourth angle that I want to mention today is what we call Metropolitan. Metropolitan is a word that has different senses and meanings. So let me bring to the conversation a couple of them just to be aware of it. You use the word metropolis historically since ancient times to remember of size. Something that is called metropole is large by definition, is diverse by definition, is collective, it crosses boundaries. It's not that a city is a metropole, it's usually a region which is a metropole. It's a union, as in Marmara region in which we are today, that unites different municipalities, cities, or levels of government to work together. Building that metropolitan governance from the civil society perspective, from the public and private actors' perspective is crucial. It's no longer enough to elect public officials at the metropolitan or city level. It could be as democratic as we want to, but we also need multi-level governance. Is crucial. It's crucial to the provision of good services of good quality to our people. Transportation, security, sanitation, nature have no administrative boundaries. So we have to be able to go beyond political administrative boundaries to work together. But I think we live in a world in which usually this collection of municipalities working around security or transportation or sanitation has to go before to a more regional perspective. Where our food came from, where our water came from, where our energy came from. Each mayor, regardless of size, should have cleared these three answers. Whoever our food, our water, and our energy came from, that's our natural region. That's people we should be working with, regardless of if it is our closest neighbor or maybe it's a longer distance neighbor. But these are the three common goods, essential. They always have been. And we should have a regional perspective of collective governance with whoever is providing us those three services. And probably we have, that's our regional perspective. And probably we have a more sharing of roads, employments, transportation and security, more daily issues, and a more metropolitan closest level. And why this is important is not only to provide good services to our people, is not only to have more collective and democratic rather than opportunistic ways of work, but also because that's how the world is. And let me finish with this. If we want to achieve, and we all want to achieve, a more prosperous, inclusive, collective, sustainable development, then we should change rapidly the ways we are working together. At the global scale, just a couple of weeks ago, the world recognizes shamefully at the United Nations that only 15% of the Sustainable Development Goals will be achieved by 2030 if we continue to work the way we are working today. We cannot afford that. It is shameful for everybody in this world that we're not going to achieve the end of hunger by 2030, that we're not going to achieve the end of extreme poverty by 2030, that we're not going to achieve that every children has a right to have a decent, good public school by 2030? Are we going to fail just to these basic things? It's first of all a shame that we still need to set up these kind of goals that should be achieved 2 centuries ago, in 2030. But let's be clear. The solutions, the human, technological, green, inclusive solutions are at the local level. We are the ones working with the people every day. We are held accountable every minute in our cities and regions. We know the solutions because we are pressed every day by our citizens to have and to provide those solutions. But the global public investment needed to scale up those solutions are held in multilateral banks. In cumbersome red tape, over-politicized decisions by nation states. We need that global public investment for sustainable development to come directly to our cities, to our metropolis, to our regions. We are the ones working and serving the needs of our people. And it doesn't mean to begin a political fight between national and subnational governments, quite the opposite. Let's set up the rules. That has been our call. In CLEU, our friend partner of municipal governments, from Metropolis, our organization of our largest cities. That has been our call to development banks, to the United Nations system. Not only let us be in the table of the decisions, set up the rules. Let us know to every city in the world, to every metropolis, to every metropolitan region, let us know what are the macroeconomic, what are the fiscal, what are the standards, economic, socially and politically, that we should meet in order to directly get no aid. We're not asking aid. We're asking global public investments in the solutions for just social inclusion, just productive inclusion, and green solutions. Let us know, what are the standards that the national governments and the multilateral development banks want us to achieve? We are ready. We are ready to meet whatever clear standards are set up so that we can access the multilateral and private and public investment needed to scale up the solutions that we already have in place. That's the call. And I ask you, my dear friends, to unite in this call. to issue this call from your council, from your mayors, from your metropolitan organizations, and also to ask this call to your own national governments, and collectively, as subnational metropolitan governments, to level this call to the global actors, to the multilateral development banks, to all nation states unite in the United Nations. Either we move the money where the people and solutions and accountability, daily accountability is located at the local level much more than at the national level. So we have the willingness, the representativeness, and the accountability to meet the standards and to move forward to achieve the social, inclusive, green, sustainable solutions, nature-based solutions that our citizens demand and we are willing to provide. Welcome to our Metropolitan Day, and thank you to the Marmara region for our warm welcome. Thank you so much.
Gracias, Presidenta. Thank you so much, Mayor Lopez, for these inspiring words. Next in the list is Mayor Hassan Akgün, who is the mayor of the Büyük of Çekmece here in Istanbul, and is an executive board member of the Marmara Municipalities Union, our host here today. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody. Önce hoş geldiniz.
First of all, I would like to say welcome. Dear Claudio Lopez, the Bogota Metropolitan Mayor and Metropolis President. With her short presentation, she very well tackled the problems of the metropolitan municipalities, and she was really very, very powerful while she was speaking, and thank you very much for this very impressive speech. I'm not a metropolitan mayor, by the way, but however, for the last 46 years, I've been following the local democracy in the municipalities of Turkey. I started working in a municipality when I was 17 years old, before even I started the university, and I continued since then. And my relation to the metropolitan areas are the 25th of March in 1984, Istanbul was given the status of metropolis. So it became a metropolitan municipality, and the mayor back then was Mr. Dalan. And I was within the borders of that metropolitan area. I was a deputy chairperson of Bakırköy district. And I was very active, actually, and I'm still very active when it comes to municipality work. So Istanbul, I have assumed responsibility in the organization and structuring of every step of Istanbul becoming a metropolitan area. And then as I said, started working in Bakırköy district, and then Büyükçekmece. It's one of the most beautiful districts of Istanbul, in the western part of Istanbul, with all its lakes and everything. It has an area of 240 square meters, kilometer square, and I've been a mayor in that area of Büyükçekmece. When the citizens say stop, I will stop. In every 5 years, most of the European countries do that once every 4 years. We get assigned every 5 years. So for the last 7 consecutive terms, I've been the mayor, and before that, I've been a deputy mayor, and before that, I was a chief assistant. So my 46 years is now complete. Well, now we have to perceive the metropolitan municipalities very well, because actually the course of the world, I mean, the things that are happening around the world gives us a huge responsibility, sometimes one that the society is not even aware of. If the climate change really exists, if there's suddenly floods in places where there have never been rain before, if there are storms in places where there were no storms before, this is called climate change. So struggling against or fighting against climate change and cleaning the cities that we have polluted ourselves, the rivers, the forests, and everything related to the city and around the city will be cleaned and saved by the municipalities. And of course, the people who actually take active duty in the municipalities are the ones who will do that. Ms. Lopez said that the transportation in our city, the public transportation, 10% of it is done with bicycles. And she talked about 600 kilometers lanes of bicycle riding. And this is an amazing example. And Istanbul, who has hosted 3 empires actually in its history. I mean, having this meeting in this city of that can be considered as a cradle of civilization is, of course, very meaningful. And exchanging our opinions here in this city is also very valuable for humanity. I think I have visited all metropolitan municipalities around the world, from Africa to Australia, from USA, and especially, of course, every city in Europe. And Europe is very effective when it comes to local democracy. I have visited everywhere, from like 10, 12 years ago in Bogota. UNCG has held its global forum of mayors, and of course, I just could have visited Bogota only once. So the metropolitan municipalities, how they embrace the entire city and how they work to enhance the happiness of people living in that city are the realities. And we have listened to many exemplary projects, and metropolitan municipalities are the most critical institutions that will actually let this happen. What I've seen in my career of 46 years is, from Istanbul to Iran border, let's build a speed train, or let's make a metro pass from every street of Istanbul. Can you really make the people happy by doing this? No, you cannot, because the citizens have their daily needs. And just like Ms. Lopez said, clean food, clean air, clean rivers, clean sea, clean cleanliness of the streets they're living in, and from the lights burning in the evening to the plants that are planted by the municipality. I mean, everything is included in this state of welfare, even taking care of the street dogs and cats. These are the things that will make our citizens more satisfied with their lives. These are the things that will make our citizens happy, because carrying a metro bus to every street, that's the task of the government. But if you can't make your citizens, residents happy, then you're not successful as a municipality. So when you add all these things together, you have to actually serve the streets of your citizens, in the kitchens of your citizens. And then you can call yourself a successful municipality. And then the welfare and prosperity in the country will definitely increase. Maybe they might have certain financial difficulties in life, but when they see what the things they want to see on their street will definitely make them happy on a daily basis. Today, this morning, someone I know, a well-educated woman, has called me, and she said to me, the new generation garbage cans are now set up in the street, and there's also the cans for the textile waste. And I'm not happy when these two are adjacent to one another, because sometimes the kids, they might get confused and throw their garbage in the textile waste bins. So she called me for this, and then I changed it immediately. And then, sorry, she called me today to thank me. So I have just moved those big boxes 10 meters away from the garbage bins, and this made my citizen happy. So this is the difference between local government and the government. And then there was another elderly lady who is actually watching the dogs and cats in the street. And if she can care about them, if during the hot days of summer, if they can put water for the pets, then you make the citizens happy. So these were two little examples about how to make citizens happy on a daily basis. I have two other topics to touch upon, municipalities and then the districts, and of course the organization may change from country to country. But I know that there's always a problem between the local government and its sub-districts. But the metropolitan municipalities in the general area of the city, they should have the entire authority. I mean, their authority should be strong, should be comprehensive. Natural resources, especially water and agricultural land, in terms of preservation of this agricultural land and water, they should have the entire authority. Some countries are like that. And if the soil is polluted, because we're talking about agriculture and the food that comes from that agricultural land, if that agricultural soil is not preserved well, if it's polluted, then it poses a big risk and danger. And also preserving the water resources is very critical, and these should all be tied to very strict plans. And you know this as well as I do. These are the two most critical tasks of the metropolitan municipality. And from this perspective, there should be a very effective governance network between the metropolitan municipality and the sub-municipalities. And we know that there's always conflict between the sub-municipalities and the metropolitan municipality almost all around the world. Metropolitan areas, cities, actually make the citizens of a country happy. And for this happiness to be restored and to be spread all around the country, then the funding side of things is also very important. Metropolitan municipalities should get a certain percentage of the GDP, but they fail to do so, unfortunately. Maybe the only exception is the Northern European countries. Apart from the Northern European countries, unfortunately, all municipalities have finance-related problems. Forever, this has been like that. And the European Council's relevant department has been holding conferences for the last 22 years, and they've been always putting funding and finance at the top of their agenda. So metropolitan municipalities, for them to serve the citizens in the way the citizens expect them to be, and to reduce the CO2 emissions, to reduce the green gases, to increase the bicycle lanes, from preservation of water and agricultural land, we need funding, money, budget. But unfortunately, central governments are not very successful in allocating that budget to us. We have very esteemed speakers who will take place after me. I'm really looking forward to their speeches. I wish Ekrem İmamoğlu, the Metropolitan Mayor, was here, but unfortunately they have their political party's congress today and tomorrow, so they have a very busy agenda. And I have been actually working in Marmara Municipalities Union, so I had to be here, and I'm very happy to be together with you, and I was very happy to have listened to Ms. Lopez's speech. From one of the best views in Istanbul, we will be looking at the Bosphorus, and I'm sure you're enjoying this panoramic view. And thank you very much for giving your time on this beautiful Saturday morning in Istanbul. But enjoy Istanbul, please, throughout the weekend. And I wish you all success to all the municipalities. And also Maruf has really contributed to the local democracies around the world, and it really contributed to bringing us together. Cebil, the General Secretary, and the Marmara Municipalities Union. I thank you all on behalf of all the members of the Marmara Municipalities Union. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Akgün. And finally, for the last intervention for this round of welcoming, we have Hasan Aydınlık, who is the Deputy Secretary General of the Metropolitan Municipality of Kocaeli and who represents the current presidency of the Marmara Municipalities Union. Please.
Dear Metropolis Mayor, esteemed Metropolitan Mayors, distinguished officials from UN Habitat and Metropolis, valued participants who have traveled all the way to attend this conference. First of all, I would like to greet you on behalf of Marmara Municipalities Union and Kocaeli Metropolitan Mayor Tahir Büyükakın. Welcome, everyone. We are genuinely delighted to host you here in Istanbul on the occasion of World Metropolitan Day, organized by the Marmara Municipalities Union within the framework of the Marmara International Urban Forum. Just next to us, Istanbul Congress Center, we have held the three-day conference of Maruf. And the theme was resilience and beyond. And again, today, the theme in the World Metropolitan Day is city and beyond. So for the last 3 days, we've been talking about metropolitan areas that are created by human activities, are facing natural disasters, and we talked about the beyond of this era as well. During the Anthropocene era, the industrialization, urbanization, and of course profit maximization, unfortunately, caused us many problems. Now humanity is trying to fight against, and so there has been I mean, the balance in the world has been deteriorated, and I don't see how we're going to heal after all these mistakes. I am trained as a medical person. I'm a doctor, and the World Health Organization talks about a healthy person as a person who lives a prosperous and wealthy life. And this also is related to the wellness of every living creature around people, including the plants and animals. But when the agriculture is polluted, when they cannot have access to water, etc., we cannot talk about a truly healthy human being. Unfortunately, again, there have been wars. I mean, the previous distinguished two speakers also talked about this. With, I mean, the intervention of people on the planet, the floods have increased, the forest fires have increased, migration problems have been on the rise, especially in the last 5 years. There have been other social risks associated with this migration. Again, in the last 5 years, we had 2 pandemics around the world, and these, I mean, the pandemics is a city disease, actually. We can call it like that. If the metropolitan areas, when it comes to epidemiology and epidemic diseases, and the speed of spreading is truly very high when it comes to contagious diseases. So pandemics are also pertinent to metropolitan areas. And also the wars that we have gone through, especially caused us problems in the supply of food. And as you know, we had gone through 3 major earthquakes in the last 6th of February. 11 Turkish provinces were affected. It was a magnitude of 7.8. 13 million people were adversely affected in those 11 Turkish provinces. It was a major problem in Turkey, a disaster. And then last year we faced a sea snot crisis in the Marmara region. So all these problems should not only be tackled and addressed in the level of metropolitan areas, but in the level of the general world.
And in Maruf 23, all these adversities that were caused by the human hands were thoroughly discussed from a social and economic point of view. Natural disasters, how to secure the food in the disruption of supply chain, all the immigration, how to tackle the immigration problems and wars. And unfortunately, during wars, as you know, chemical, biological, and nuclear wars are still a probability today. Therefore, so it's not sufficient only to discuss resilience. We need to discuss beyond. For instance, when we look at the pandemic, what did we do in the pandemic? Some countries have closed their borders as a precaution, but was it enough? No. And Ms. Lopez have already mentioned, the president of Metropolis, can you put boundaries to birds, to animals? Are you able not to take them to the country because they don't have passports? And when there is pollution, would you prevent pollution from being carried to another country? No. So what did we do? We resorted to personal hygienic measures. We were careful to wash our hands, and we took other personal hygiene measures. And based on that, when we look at the preventive medicine, an example from my own profession, about all these problems, the local governments, local administrations have a lot of responsibilities, because if some of the measures that you take don't cover the entire world, maybe you cannot solve the problem, but you basically help yourself, help your cities to become resilient, to tackle these issues. And we need to learn from our mistakes immediately. I think that's what we need to do. Mr. Büyükakın, the Metropolitan Mayor, while emphasized this a lot. If we don't set up systems that don't learn from mistakes, then we'll continue living the same stuff. We have this saying, the history always repeats itself. And we always add that if we would have taken lessons from our mistakes, would history repeat? So now while local authorities need to think global too. Both distinguished speakers have mentioned that in this century, the metropolitan municipalities need to take share from the revenue and be a part of the decision making. And I'd like to use another metaphor. Just imagine a big clock, the little gears being oiled and the small ones being brushed. Would this clock show you the right time? No, it would simply stop. What happens then? No one can advance in time, and the time virtually stops, and the entire world would stop. Then, of course, all the things that we watch in the sci-fi movies would become a reality. We are the representatives of such a civilization. In our case, happiness goes through the happiness of everyone. If there is this saying, if my neighbor is sleeping with a while empty stomach, then I cannot sleep. And I think these nice values should be embraced by the entire world. So on the occasion of 7th of October, World Metropolitan Day, we need to discuss how to tackle these issues on a metropolitan global level. How can we can make sure that the local, global, international authorities should come together to cooperate. That's what will be discussed. We are basically the roses of the different colors of the same world garden. We're swimming in the same pool. Anything that happens in any geographical region of the world will affect the other states in the world and other people. We are a part of a whole. So I wish you a productive meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we're going to start with the first of the panels. The topic for today is how nature can transform metropolises. You've been hearing from the presentations. Just one word of order. So I hope you all found number 2 was English channel. If someone needs Portuguese, Portuguese is number 4, and French is number 3, so that you can tune in and follow all the discussions. I'm going to ask the panelists for the first panel to come up on stage. The first panel is going to be moderated by Antonella Contin, who's research associate at the University Politecnico di Milano in Italy. She will be introducing the panelists. Antonella.
Good morning. May I start? Probably I have to close this one. Okay, right now it's okay? Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Thank you to be here. I would like to invite on the stage the first panelist. First of all, the mayor of Bogotá, Claudia Lopez. Welcome. Elisenda Lamay, Vice President of International Relations and Digitalization Metropolitan Area of Barcelona, Spain. Welcome, Elisenda. And Issa Cassis, Mayor of Ramallah. Good morning. So it's a very challenging panel, but it's easy to start with the mayor Claudia Lopez, because Claudia Lopez a few years ago introduced a super relevant topic that is the city of care. And the city of care is deeply linked to the approach that aims and include nature-based solution, because nature-based solution aim is to foster the mental and physical wellness of the citizen. But today you add something that it was not so focused in the city of care, because you introduce nature and the other beings that stay with us. And I do think that nature-based solution is relevant, is a technical issue, of course, but it's relevant because they are strongly connected with the idea of cultural-based solution. And city of care has this topic that sometimes we forget. The culture of the metropolis is fundamental. So I really would like to ask you, if is it possible that the beautiful approach of city of care, also because it's related to the women approach regarding the reality, within this new approach related to nature-based solution can be transformed in real social action. So people would like to take care about nature, environment, animal. So is it possible to use these two approaches together to foster the action, the social action, so that we are able to define the metropolitan common goods? Because sometimes we forget that there is a metropolitan common good. So can you give us some clue regarding this pact between city of care, nature-based solution, fostering real action, starting from citizen arriving to claim a metropolitan approach for the state? Thank you.
Well, Antonella, thank you so much. Such a great pleasure to have with you all in this panel, with Isa and Elisenda too, and with all of you. So let me start by saying that in Bogota and in Metropolis, we think that any metropole solution should have an order. First of all, to care for the people. It's not people with hunger, with disparities, with exclusions, affected by war and poverty and hunger, who's gonna now, on top of that, to solve the climate change and all the global challenges. So if we wanna care for the planet, there is an order in any solution. We should first care for the people, particularly for youth and women, who are the most excluded and affected usually by any challenge in our cities. Second of all, to care for democracies, for political settings in which all peoples have voice and are able to hold accountable to their representatives. You know, it might be different forms, there are different political settings to achieve that, but you should have transition in power and accountability. Otherwise, it's hardly possible to have really the voice of any social inclusion in the world. And third of all, then you can care for the planet. Because caring for the planet, caring for climate change, for example, for building peace, which is so dear to our heart, requires collective action, Antonella. It is not an individual, challenge to build peace or sustainable development or transition in energies. It is a global collective challenge. So you need collective action. And to channel collective action, you need representative, accountable political settings at the local, at the metropolitan, national, and global level. So caring for people, caring for accountable, peaceful forms of organizations and collective decision, and caring for the planet. That's the order. So why what do I mean by the city of care concept that we have been working and developing in Bogota? Let me put it this simple way. It's a women-based solutions. That's what I mean by caring solutions. Let me tell you the story of the city that I came from and the region that I came from. I'm the first woman ever to be elected, popularly elected, to the city capital of Colombia in Latin America, which is Bogota. It's the largest city. It's an 8 million people city. It's a metropolitan region of 11 million people. 52% of our population are women, is in the case in general of Latin American cities and countries. Half, more than half, a little bit more than half of the population are women. But unfortunately, more than half of the employment and income opportunities in our cities and countries are informal income, informal labor force. They don't have a healthcare system properly organized by the government. They don't have a social security to protect people when they are kids, when they get ill, or where they get older. But we all are kids at some point of our life and need care, right? At some point we may get ill and we need care, right? We all for sure will be elder and we will need care. If there is no a social security, publicly or mixed provided system of care, who provides that care? Women provide that care. Women take care of us as kids, of members with disabilities in their family are women mainly who take care of them, and of our grandparents and elder members in our family when they need care are women who provide that care. But it is an unpaid domestic care work. So women on average in Latin America and also in my city work 7 hours more per day, not only to generate income, but to provide care to other members of their family, but they don't get a penny for that. They don't get help or support to do that. So now let me rephrase it. It's not women who provide care to replace the social security that should be provided by the nation state. It's actually the impoverization of women who provides care. Because in order to provide that unpaid domestic care work, women have sacrificed their time, their education, their income and labor opportunities, have resigned to those opportunities, have get into poverty in order to provide that care. It used to think, and it used to be thought that it is normal. That's not normal. Sacrificing and abusing and excluding women from education and labor and autonomy is not normal. No woman in the world is going to have a normal, productive, respectful life if they are not included. So I'm just the mayor. I'm just the mayor. What could I do for the women in my city? More than 4 million women, 1.2 million of them are under poverty because they just have domestic unpaid care work. What we decided to do was to build the city of care, meaning using all the social infrastructure that the city has, usually to provide services to their kids, schools, parks, community centers, cultural centers, sports centers, health centers. We should use and organize all these social infrastructure and add services that has a clear purpose, which is to recognize, to reduce, and to relieve unpaid care overburden from women. So in the same infrastructure, we take care, the public servants of Bogota, we take care of the kids, of the elders, of the members with disabilities of those women families, so that we can free them time, 6 to 8 hours on average per week, so that woman can finish school, can get a job, can rest, can take care of their own health, can get training, so that they can have an educated economic autonomy, which is directly related to have a life free from violence and abuse. The lack of economic autonomy in every part of the world for women is directly related to risk of violence or abuse, everywhere. That's the system of care in Bogota. We are now able to provide services in 3 years for 400,000 of the 1.2 million women who need this care. We were able to relieve and to return to these women at least 6 to 8 hours free of time for themselves, and to provide them with the income, education, skills training, rest. And these are services, let me just finish saying this. These are services as basic as to provide a public, free laundry service. So instead of them taking care of this manually, when there is a machine that do that, since 100 years ago. But there is no public service. There were no public service, free public service of this kind of free laundry service in popular areas in Bogota. Making flexible the school models, the school schedules, so that this woman can finish school, get graduated, get skill training, and connecting them with nature-based solutions jobs. For example, in Bogota, we decided that we were going to plant 1 million trees in the city, 1 million trees. And also to build a gardening that provides food security for people at home. Who's gonna plant those trees? Who's gonna plant those gardens? So we train these women, which are usually over 40 or 50, is low educated, it's not so easy to get a new job for them. So we provide them with the skills for gardening, for tree maintenance, for reforesting the city, and now they are 8,500 of them are women for regreening in Bogota. And they get a new job and a new opportunity that provides food security at home for them, and also take care of the planting of the trees and planting of the gardening in the city. This is the city of care. And let me finish with this. I truly think that if we provide youth-based solutions for education and innovation, women-based solutions, and nature-based solutions, that's the recipe for the Sustainable Development Goals, for taking care of the planet and for caring about the people.
Thank you, Mayor. To take care for nature with nature, and nature is woman. Okay, I don't want to forget man, because it's part of the human being too. Elisenda, welcome. Barcelona is one of our champions when we speak about metropolitan issue and metropolitan solution. And the Mayor, Claudia Lopez, spoke about time, the time of the cities, the time of women. And Barcelona introduced since times a new deal of data, but not only data, but also data sovereignty. So the possibility to be the owner of our own data. To speak about also connectivity as a right, is an infrastructure. So I would like to introduce also the topic of a possible divide that digitalization can produce. We are speaking about women that are low educated, for example, so we need a training for greenery, but also for using data. Can you express in which way Barcelona is working trying to figure out a nature-based solution, and we know that after the COVID and the pandemic, the city of Barcelona and the metropolitan city of Barcelona introduced some tools and strategy for that. If you have some solution or some idea regarding how is it possible to use the two transitions, green and digital, together, trying not to produce a divide, but try to foster this sort of collective action, because I really think that the narrative related to the metropolis has to show that there is a common metropolitan good. And what we are trying to figure out is exactly to convince and to figure out what does it mean to be a metropolitan population, why we have to take care about our metropolis. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for hosting this event. It's a fantastic event. Thank you, Metropolis, and also Marmara, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you in this first panel. Actually, the digital politics in a metropolitan level is quite new. Actually, it's new with my vice presidency, because we didn't have this layer in a metropolitan level. Of course, Barcelona, the city of Barcelona, has a huge history working with this issue. And I would like to make a keynote, because sometimes people tend to confuse what's Barcelona and the metropolitan area of Barcelona. The metropolitan area of Barcelona includes 36 municipalities, of course Barcelona as well, but we go beyond Barcelona as well. We call it La Gran Barcelona, the Great Barcelona. Of course, not everyone likes this concept, but we can say it's the Great Barcelona. And after the pandemic, we were aware that we need these politics also in the metropolitan level. So actually, now we are discussing what we are going to develop. We are talking about, for example, the coastal affluency in our beaches, because it's something that we manage. It's our responsibility. We manage beaches and also forests in the region. So it's something quite new that actually I haven't talked about yet. So we are developing what kind of applications, what kind of data collection we can recollect in order to be useful for our 36 municipalities. We are aware that traditionally, and I can say traditionally, politics and institutions had not taken into account the nature variable. And many people of my generation have learned about this consciousness from social movements, from non-governmental entities. And I think these social movements have pushed institutions to put this issue in the agenda. So that's why we need to add all this knowledge from activism, from entities, from social movements, in order to set the agenda. And I think that's very important, because institutions nowadays have not the same capacity as decades ago. We no longer have the knowledge. We no longer have all resources. So we need to ally, we need to collaborate, we need to share, and we need to lead with others. Because our society is very complex now with globalization and new challenges, so we cannot lead alone. And I think that's, of course, another I think we learned from the pandemic that we cannot lead alone. We need other administrations, we need, of course, entities, we need people in order to lead challenges, in order to lead changes. To make sustainable or healthy cities, it is necessary to take into account how nature works and how to respect it. And in other words, what we have been doing from the metropolitan level is to work on how to allow nature to enter municipalities, how to respect green corridors, how to incorporate respectful criteria in our investments, how to take advantage of sustainable energy as solar and electric, how to increase green and soft areas instead of gray and hard areas, or even how to build homes by more sustainable materials such as wood, or how to orientate constructions in the most efficient way possible. And I think the mayor has said our society has changed a lot, usages has changed a lot, our habits, our main characters, I mean the leaders of our society has changed, women, young people. And sometimes institutions keep develop politics the same way as nothing has happened. Nothing has changed. And we should adapt our politics to the new reality, to the new leaders, of course, to the new citizen demands. And this means, for example, that governments should learn from nature by adapting their ecosystem to citizens' needs. And we should understand what the new trajectories of our citizens are. For example, women, as it's been said. Women walk, women go by bike, and it's not the same trajectory of a woman in a city than a man in the city. I don't want to essentialize what a man is, but we tend to say that a man goes to the office with a vehicle and then returns to home with a vehicle. That's not the same trajectory for a woman. Women can go around, can assist the children or maybe the elderly, and then go to shop and then return home. And the city should adapt to these trajectories as well. We cannot plan the city as we were doing in the past. And I think that this is related to nature as well. Cities should seek this balance and harmony, which is in the nature, in the daily needs of citizens. So work, commerce, school, parks. We have been talking a lot about the city of 15 minutes. We have opened the discussion of the metropolitan area of 30 minutes. And then this is the theory, and then the dilemmas, the practice. What if in our city people are saying that we should expand our airport? What to do? Or what to do with the large strategic infrastructures or logistics areas or ports? What is the balance? Where is the balance? Who rules these investments? David Harvey says that cities are places to live rather than to invest. But be careful, because what we are living in our cities, what we are living in Barcelona, for example, is that our city can be managed for a lot of money, which is landing to the city, willing to invest, and not putting the common will in the center. So how to redistribute costs and benefits of infrastructures and nature. And I think that's not new, but traditionally we have understood progress like money, jobs, roads, and I think that this is changing as the picture we have in here. We want livable cities. We want neighborhoods which are livable, with better mobility, with better accessibility, with fresher air. And this is not an elite agenda. Green agenda is not an elite agenda. It's a social agenda. Only in the city of Barcelona, we could save 3,000 lives. 3,000 lives per year we are losing because extreme conditions of temperature, extreme conditions of polluted air. So this is a social agenda. And I think that from the institutions, we should make an effort to explain climate change. It's a collective challenge. It's not an individual challenge. And we must be aware, we politics, when we address our politics to citizens. If it's not an individual challenge, not always all politics we want to develop must put the responsibility to the individual. It's a collective thing. We should collaborate into administrations. We, for example, from the metropolitan area, collaborate with the regional government in housing aids, for example, with the 36 municipalities. We work with an urban master plan because we think that we must plan with a large perspective, including demographic changes, climate change, globalization. And I think that we must understand that we are in a new era. We don't have the capacity from the institutions to work alone in order to make a change. So what is public now, I think that goes beyond institutions. What we understand, what the public is, what public service is, it goes beyond institutions. It goes beyond the local council. We must work with regional level, metropolitan level, and of course, all social actors in our cities.
Thank you very much, Alisenda. And now the mayor of Ramallah, Issa Kassis. Probably from Ramallah, our anxiety seems very easy now to solve. And I read amazing project that you have done in Ramallah, in particular for foster citizen and children physical and mental health and well-being and living capacity. And my question is about, I read a project regarding environmental campaign and environmental steward. Probably as a person, everybody is an environmental steward to foster collective activity. And the life of a camp, I read about Kedara refugee camp, and the camp can be for us also a seed of a new idea of community action, community life. So what we can learn from Ramallah in terms of how to build a city that, including nature-based solution, can give us a possibility, even though in a period of crisis, to have a hope and taking care about children, the future citizens of our metropolis, and to educate our children to become environmental steward. And also the last thing, what do we need in terms of technical capacity to build all this framework knowledge? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Metropolis and Municipality Marmara for such an outstanding arrangement. I'm really honored to be here and to represent my small city, Ramallah, whom we see as an international city with a local flavor. First, allow me to pay my respect over people who lost their lives for the past years, but especially this morning. We resent violence, and we believe that justice must prevail to have peace in Palestine. What we can learn from Ramallah, one word, resilience. And I believe if we look at globalization and how the internet going from 3, 4 to 5G and the transformation in the financial sector and how fintech pops up, if we take this and apply it on local governments, we see that COVID made this transformational change. And my city is not an exception. Yes, we are elected mayors, and we have a responsibility over people who freely elected us according to our plan, our program, and our promise. Ramallah is 15,000 square kilometers. Some 50,000 people live in it, and some 250,000 people visit the city on a daily basis. Our society is young. People below the age of 50 are over 68% of the society. And this was one main reason how we survived COVID. Mortality rate was amongst the lowest in the world. What was really astonishing to come out from city of Ramallah is the recovery plan. And here I will touch on the interaction between the local government and the society, the people. We were the first city in the world who had a recovery and renewal plan which has an ISO standard of 22393. You can Google it. And this was accredited by the University of Manchester last year and very much commended by the world, actually. I believe that COVID has put nature in front of us and converted nature from a place that we look at to expand, i.e. being on the receiving end, on how we think and how we plan for things, into the place that was our shelter during COVID, and how nature played and continues to play the shelter and the place that we must pay respect for. And as Mayor Lopez said, it's not an aid to nature, but investment in nature. Yes, the society is young, and the key word was simply listening. Listening to the public and get feedback. And this was stimulated, yes, by COVID, but continued at an accelerated mode post-COVID. Taking care of the elderly was one major projects that the municipality started in the year 2018, and the peak was during COVID, where the elderly, or the retired, we don't say the elderly, the retired, they were an integral part of surviving COVID, and until the very today, they were the models for the youth, who are the largest stake of our society, to respect nature and to apply the SDGs in the best possible way ever. I'm so happy to see that we used to say the term localizing SDGs, and we hear this often. But today, I don't feel foreign in SDGs. I believe that we speak the same language, and we simply apply SDGs in Bogota and in Ramallah pretty much the same, because the care is the same and the drive is the same. People needs are the same, and therefore this force behind the change, the transformational change in the work of local governments vis-à-vis nature has been very, very, very transformational and very new to most of us. Looking back at Ramallah and how the young society is driving local economic development, which is something that was revealed after COVID, where more than 35% of the people went unemployed. And here allow me to focus on the women role. In my society, women are 55%. In my organization, in the municipality, women are 70%. In the council of Ramallah, women are 45%. In the executive team of my municipality, they're around 70%. Imagine that 60% of the food trucks in Ramallah after COVID are run by women. And 70% of the traditional markets, which we conduct every Friday in summer, were run by women. And these are people who are not paid as salaried women. This is totally unofficial. They come to the kiosk by foot or by bike, but definitely not by their own car. And here the municipality played a crucial role under the name Local Economic Development, the LED, into capitalizing on them. Of course, this brought extra cash to the house. And the extra cash to the house created a better well-being. Some of them, and many of them, managed to get insurance from the government to buy affordable insurance coverage. And this was really transformational, because in Palestine, as you well know, we live under extreme odd circumstances because we live under occupation. It's no secret. But yet, you see that economic development, social development, is at the highest base. And therefore, you see the city is sustainable and getting more and more into being resilient. And resilient to the changes that we live and we foresee. The spending habits in Palestine are totally different than neighboring regions, for many obvious reasons. Thanks to the youth who realized their responsibility over their society, driven by a very strong campaign, a 24-month campaign from the municipality with the youth on having a youth council to preserve nature, a youth committee to preserve the well-being of the youth, and speaking about smoking and bad habits, etc., etc., and promoting the love to the land and the devotion and the commitment to the land. I believe the local government, the municipality, has played a role far beyond its 17 SDGs even, by being closer to the public, closer to the people who elected this mayor and council, and creating this level of resilience in the city, that the young and the elderly, they go side by side into drawing the future of the city, how they want to see the city. They imposed on us that they want larger, wider pavements. They said, after COVID, we don't want to stay at home. We want to stay out. We want to breathe. We don't want to walk on the pavement, we want to sit on the pavement. So this has transformed the planning of certain businesses, that they can have their tables and chairs outside the restaurants, on the pavement, because people want to stay out. People want to be closer to nature. So in this particular respect, we felt that nature played to our advantage and was the aid for us looking at the public and try to meet their needs and demands. Put aside the green area and all the investments that the municipality did in public parks, employing recycled water to cater for public parks. We have 22 public parks, and we are committed to build much more. Going back to the well-being of the people, maybe because the society is young and therefore they're more receptive to change. I strongly believe in this thing that, yeah, you know, educating the elder is slightly, you know, it's more tough than communicating and speaking with the younger generation through applying a concept like the city of music, the city of culture, where you attract and speak this international language and gain this commitment and ownership of change. So they bought into the idea of preserving the well-being of the public. And you see the level of volunteering from the younger generation. And when I say younger generation, I'm talking from 16 to 32. It's unbelievable. The level of volunteering to the city in all aspects, be it environmental, cultural, etc. We felt that we got closer to the public. We managed to speak the same language, their language. And for us, as a local government, this was quite transformational. And as I symbolize this, like, we used to play squash, and now we're playing tennis. So there was no opponent. There was just us, and just, you know, cooking and giving the public whatever we cook. And then they say, well, we wanted cherry flavor. We wanted whatever. So this was, for us, this was a big change. And I felt deep inside of me that if we want to survive our agony as Palestinian people under occupation, we have to have this drive inside of us. We have to have this resilience in finding new ways. And the key word is to live for Palestine and not to die for Palestine. And promoting this hope in a better tomorrow, you have to listen to what people say when you say, I want to build hope inside of you. If you want to build hope, you have to first find food so that you eat, and then you continue and raise your kids and teach them how to love the land and how to preserve the city and how to live for a better tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. So thank you very much to all of you. I would like to leave on this stage some keywords for the last panel, for the last dialogue. Language of hope and language of resilience, volunteer ownership of change. Fantastic. And devotion and commitment to the land, new citizen demands and politics, and just woman nature-based solution, looking for public and individual for social action. So thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you very much to the panelists for an excellent first panel. And now we're going on to the second panel, which is going to be moderated by Rafa Forero, who's an expert at UN Habitat, as I was saying at the beginning, the other partner of World Metropolitan. So Rafa Forero, the floor will be yours to call on the participants of this next panel. Thank you very much.
Hello, can you hear me now? Better? No? Now? Okay. Good morning. Thank you, Jordi. Thank you, Metropolis, of course, and thank you, Marmara Municipalities Union, Chemil, Burjuham, all the team for such a great commemoration of World Metropolitan Day. I think that any year, World Metropolitan Day is becoming more important, more significant. No? I would like to welcome in this panel about governance for resilient metropolis. We will about governance now. The Mayor Claudia Lopez told us about governance at the opening, but we will go deep. So I would like to welcome here Yahra Saha, Mayor of Gaza, Ana Cristina Wassenler, Deputy Secretary of Sao Paulo, and Taufik Sahidur Rama, Policy and Planning Advisor to the Mayor of Dhaka North. And apologies in advance if I didn't pronounce well your names. So I'm happy to have you here, both of three, and welcome, because I think that, of course, you are three different cities, three different metropolis, but I think that we will discover across the panel that we, all of us, you and all of us, are sharing the same challenges, no? To sustainable development, to sustainable urbanization. I would like to recover some of the takeaways from the first panel. First, that definitely COVID-19 transformed the relation of people and local administrations with nature, of course, and it is very related with the topic that we are discussing today, no? How to leverage nature and how to use nature to leverage the metropolitan scale and to transform our cities. But second, also, that the COVID-19 revamped public policy, and one very good example of that was the city of care approach of Bogota, of course. But I think that not only city of care, but in more a general and more broadly perspective, all our city governance changed during COVID-19. No? We at UN Habitat make a study of the first year of the pandemic. We studied nearly 200 governance arrangements in 80 countries, mostly during the first year of the pandemic, the first 2 or 3 waves, and the conclusion was simple, but I think that was strong. All the cities in where some kind of multi-level governance existed before or were implemented during the pandemic were the cities that could address better the crisis. And when we wonder about that, we wonder to the public managers and to the citizens, why is that? It's because, of course, the response to the pandemic could approach to more people, to more extension of territory, and it has one particularity. It also covered peri-urban and rural communities. No? So definitely, if there is an obvious lesson learned from the pandemic, is that we cannot respond alone to a crisis. We need collaboration, we need solidarity, we need cooperation at the center of public action. No? So this is my first question for all of you, and please, we are a little running with time, so 2 or 3 minutes, each of you to tell us what are those keys of governance process in your territories, not in your metropolitan territories, at your local scale, but also at your metropolitan and regional scale. We are speaking about Sao Paulo and Dhaka North, which belongs to a greater megacity, but we are also speaking about Gaza, no, which belongs to an important corridor, not only a local city, but an important corridor with significant political importance. So what are those keys of local governance, metropolitan governance in each of your territory? Please, first, Ana Cristina.
Thank you very much for everything. Eu gostaria de, primeiramente, agradecer por estar aqui hoje, agradecer à Rede Metrópolis.
First of all, thank you very much, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. Well, it is a great source of pride for me to be here in Istanbul, in this forum. Thank you very much. First of all, apologies for speaking in my own local language, but in order for me to express myself better, I prefer to speak my mother tongue. When we use our mother tongue, we can speak from our hearts, right? So, well, our Secretary General Suplicy, Ricardo, our mayor, I have brought their regards to you. There is salute to you. I represent them here on this platform. We, especially women like us, well, I have been born in an islet city, Jamorajawa Island. It is located in the northern part of Brazil. It is rarely known in the world. In 1990s, I migrated to Sao Paulo, and I worked in the Ministry of Culture. I acted as a Deputy Minister of Culture, and now, together with him, well, I am responsible for the international relations at Sao Paulo municipality. I'm the Deputy Secretary General. So, I'm talking about the Sao Paulo as a metropolitan region. It's the largest of the southern hemisphere and the largest in the world. It has 22 million people in it. There are 39 municipals in it, and well, it represents 22% of the GDP. Thinking about talking about the challenges and the local governments, local administrations. Of course, we have to cooperate with all the other municipalities and local administration in Sao Paulo in order to render services to the citizens. Well, of course, our perspective is very important in public management, public administration. Ricardo, our former mayor, well, with our mayor, we have a council at Sao Paulo where we work together, cooperate with the federal government to offer services. So, and the official services that will be rendered by the council are pretty much focusing on carrying out urbanization and development projects and shape and manage the Sao Paulo plans as well as the environmental plans in Sao Paulo. If we talk about Sao Paulo region, that is on our agenda, all the services that we provide basically are taken to all the districts that are in line with our borders. We built training centers, education centers in unity. Our Marta Suplis, our Secretary General, formed these centers in 2003, and since 2003, we have been working on these organizations. Of course, there are children in the poor places of the city, so the children and the kids, the young people use these centers, these places for playing, for getting education, and so, well, here we are discussing all these social challenges in a beautiful place like this. And so we need to basically hear about what the other cities are saying. It's essential to cooperate with them. And it's also very essential to know our responsibilities. Well, of course, it's in the southern hemisphere, Sao Paulo, but, well, there is a huge problem here. Homeless people living out on the streets. It shows the vulnerable side of Sao Paulo. Yes, we're the fourth largest metropolitan area in the world, but unfortunately, since we cannot unite these people living out in the streets, is the case. Our municipality would like to help out these people in any way we can. But I'd like to refer to what Claudia Lopez mentioned. She also referred to this. Women being a part of the local administration in Sao Paulo, that's really very essential. Thank you very much.
Obrigado, Ana Cristina. I think that you touched a really important point, which is instrumentalization of governance. and you spoke about the plans, the Metropolitan plan, the regional plan of the macrometropoli Paulista, no? And how you are trying to link this plan with the municipal and with lower level of governments. And this is really an innovation, because in the study that we are doing of the global state of metropolis, we realized that there is a lack of connection between metropolitan and regional instruments, planning instruments, with the one of the local and city level. And I think that Sao Paulo can teach us a lot about that, how to really instrumentalize multi-level governance, no? And bem-vinda para falar português now. Now, I would like to give the floor to the mayor of Gaza, of course, Mr. Yaha Sarah. Please tell us about the keys of territorial governance in such a significant but challenging territory, no?
Thank you very much. It's our pleasure to be here with you and talk about Gaza and to share our views and to learn from each other. Let's first pay respect to all people in Palestine, and let's pray for their safe and well-being at this moment. Gaza is an old city. It's more than 3,000 years BC, still living. It's known of its long history and long struggle. And historians tell us that Gaza used to fight, used to resist, and to stay resilient as much as it can. It has been destroyed several times along history, but come back stronger and better. We have a lot of people, a very crowded area. We have 2.2 million in Gaza Strip living in a very small piece of land. We face challenges every day. The main and the most difficult one is the occupation of Palestine. The longest occupation and maybe the most difficult one. And on top of that, Gaza is also struggling under more than 15 years blockade, siege from all boundaries. You don't have the freedom to move. It's too difficult to get out. It's too difficult to come back. It's difficult to receive delegations and friends, and you can't plan for a long period of time. These are the main basic challenges that we face. On top of that, we now face water in terms of quality and shortage of quantity. The big number of refugees who live in Gaza Strip, about 70% or more of the inhabitants, the residents are refugees. Most of them cannot afford to pay the bills for services, so we have shortage of funds. The collection rate is now at its best rate is 26% of people who pay monthly their bills. These are the main and basic challenges that we face. We struggle every day to provide the basic services to make sure that people receive good quantity of water. Sometimes the quality is not good. It's too salty, it's saline. And the solid waste services are also a challenge. We lack the equipment, the right equipment to collect waste from homes, from streets. And we also face problems in treating the waste. We have mountains of waste at the landfill. I estimate in Gaza City itself, about 5 million tons of waste are accumulated in a piece of land where we are looking for any piece of land that we can invest for and make use. So this is also a big challenge. Sometimes we feel it's a luxury to talk about climate change or to talk about earthquake resistance or any other thing. But we work harder. We try to engage people, to educate people, and bring them to our side. When I came to office in 2019, I noticed that there is a big division between the people and the municipality. This is probably because of a long and bad history of being occupied, and these governmental or semi-governmental institutions were run by occupation. So people feel that probably the municipality is not a friend. And to be a good person, you shouldn't abide by the rules at that time. So we face a long and hard struggle to convince people that the situation is changing and the municipality is a friend of people and they should work together. We managed to support the youth, and we believe that the youth are maybe the biggest and most powerful force that can make change. So we supported more than 100 initiatives by the youth, and they helped us a lot. We also call for volunteers to support our work. We have a lot of people, as Mr. Isa said, and they want to work. They want to change the situation, but they don't have been given the opportunity for that. So we work our best to help them, to help us, and to help the country, and to make the change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to highlight some of your last words, which is the youth, no? The youth, the young people, and how are you including this youth perspective and seizing the youth energy, let's say, and the future for resilience, no, and for anti-fragility. We also heard that in the panel of before from Ramallah, no? So I think that both of you are touching this topic in a very strategic way. But also I think that there is, with your intervention, there is a real need to highlight and to strengthen the linkage between peace and development, and peace and urban development, and that is definitely a topic that we need to revamp at international cooperation. So thanks a lot for your impression. I would like to give you the floor, Taifuk, I hope to really pronounce well your name, Taifuk Sahidur Rahman, but also including another, let's see, another perspective for governance, because when we talk about governance, we talk about connections, no? And that is the difference, one of the main difference between governing without and or with people, no? But we also see a connection between the formal and informal institutions or arrangement when we implement a governance approach. But we also see connections between governmental and non-governmental organizations and connections between national, regional, and local governance. In a mega city like Dhaka, and specifically in your district, Dhaka North, how are these connections been seizing, no? And how these connections have been, let's say, transforming the quality of lives of Dhaka citizens?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Metropolis and Marmara, for holding such a, rich event. Let me give you a perspective. I come from Dhaka, Dhaka North. Dhaka is the capital of Bangladesh, which has about 180 million people, and Dhaka has about 30 million people living in this capital. And the capital is made into half, Dhaka North and Dhaka South, and roughly about 15 million people lives in Dhaka North, lives, works, and everything. The density is massive. It is about 49,000 people per square kilometer. I think this challenge gets more complicated when the city has multiple authorities to manage. Say the water supply is managed by a different agency. The major roads that pass through the city are managed by a different agency of the government itself. Utilities like electricity is managed by a couple of different agencies as well. So the things become complicated. And the private sector, I think the growth of Bangladesh is a private sector driven growth, or the non-government organization driven growth. So this challenge for the mayor is to bring all these agencies together in one table and synchronize the way they are taking the city forward, making the interventions and everything. To give you a particular example, so Dhaka definitely has a lot of urban informal settlements. And the city, these households, these poor households, very cheaply built households, has always been on the risk of fire. And so that the alleys are so narrow that a fire truck just cannot go in. So what interventions that we made? We brought in a lot of NGOs that are working in that place and give them a challenge. Look, why don't you, so these areas, they don't have proper sanitation, proper water supply, and many other things. So we gave them a challenge. Look, why don't you arrange a water supply system for this community, for these communities, and also bring in a solution for fire hydrant. So these people came out of a very innovative solution which combines a overhead tank large enough to supply water for the community, as well as get them connected to the hydrant systems that got installed all around these poor households. So, and this is working. Unfortunately enough, there has not been any fire after that, but design-wise, we see that it is working. So these innovations are coming across from private sector, which are essentially, nothing to do with the government almost, or the city itself. But I think what we do in our city is encourage these interventions as much as possible. So be it a cleaning of a canal, be it beautification of the city, be it like we have a lot of columns of flyovers, which is very dirty. So we are now bringing in private sector to paint these columns with graffitis. And the city is changing colors. City is getting new colors, but at zero cost to the city. But the city is welcoming all the big, even now, right before I came here, I was having a dialogue with German embassy in Bangladesh, who are now very keen to paint a few columns of these flyovers to make the city beautiful and show a sign of friendship with the city. So, we are, welcoming these interventions, and I think it is working. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's say, rephrase some of your statements and say, multi-stakeholder collaboration to cope with institutional fragmentation. No? And this is especially important for megacities. We are seeing from UN Habitat that not in mostly of the cases, institutional fragmentation is suitable. And in those where it's not, is because there are not enough financing and articulation mechanisms. No? You tell us it's very difficult to articulate several sectorial authorities within the same or nearby jurisdictions. No? But it is also very difficult to articulate and to have
multiple sectorial authorities working properly without the enough financial resources. Actually, this was one of the conclusions of the United Nations General Assembly just a couple of weeks ago. No, we need to improve international and local financiation for sustainability. At this path, we will not achieve, as the Mayor Lopez said at the beginning, we will not achieve sustainable development goals. And one of the keys pass through financiation. We need more financing mechanisms. We need fiscal decentralization from national to local and subnational levels. And I think that multi-stakeholder partnership, this collaboration from private sector for communities is also helping to improve efficiency and to close some of the gap of financiation. No? I would like to close with another general question, looking to the future, no? And looking to this, let's say, urgency call that we got from the UN Secretary General in order to boost sustainable development goals implementation and global agendas implementation more in general. No? So, which inspiring practices or which lesson learned from each of your cities can be used, not only for you, but also for the audience and other cities that will hearing us online afterwards? Which are those lessons to improve or to, let's say, realign our public management to sustainable development goals from social, from economical, and from environmental perspective, no? Let's say from an integral perspective. Please, Ana Cristina.
Thank you. Bem, São Paulo aderiu de forma voluntária à Agenda 2030 e selou o compromisso em lei aprovada.
For us, volunteerism is very key. I mean, we have this project that's been going on for the last 5 years, and our goal is sustainable development through volunteerism. And very simply put, our goals are very critical because we want our society's general happiness and welfare. In 2021, we put our 2023 targets on the table, and there we looked at how much we can really transform these commitments to the reality. And we did a collaboration with stakeholders. And we tried to eliminate the differences from an economic perspective as well, funding perspective as well. Let me give you an example. In 188 locations, we have created 1,000-something employment. And we have 348 new businesses that were set up. And just like the president said, in terms of businesses, companies, we want to make them official. We, in 2023 now, has allocated the largest budget ever, 22 billion reals of investment will be used for social aid, social assistance. And our goals are, of course, now under control. We have sub-commissions controlling these budgets. São Paulo is a big metropolitan city, and to ensure quality living standards is really very key. And for that, we need to also ensure sustainable development. São Paulo has to do better. This is our responsibility because all other cities are actually following us, taking us as a role model. So we need to be the best. so we can be a reference to Brazil and to the world. And this requires us to have collaboration from all different stakeholders. And Marta Suplicy actually established this international committee, and we're acting together with the other international cities. We're collaborating with them. This international collaboration is very key. And the management should definitely be given to responsible people. So we had a democratic election, but there were like things that were not very democratic before. But thanks God, now we have the democracy back in place. And after this democracy, as Sao Paulo, we are focusing on how we can actually eliminate all the differences between people. And for this, we need to also make sure that all people, all citizens have access to the same services. That was kind of challenging after the pandemic, but now we're on track.
In our case, we started by making the stereotype image of the municipality as better as it could be with the community, with the people. We made the open house policy or the open door policy. We started to engage the public with our activities and to increase the awareness of the importance of the municipality and its services and how it should be cared for and respected. This was the first and most important issue that we worked hard to achieve. We couldn't yet achieve all what we want, but at least we had a better relation with the public and we can say a good trust, mutual trust together. The second was to encourage the youth and receive them at the municipality and engage them in participating in cultural events, in volunteer work. We managed to attract more than 200 volunteers to work on the beach, to make it cleaner and better, and to make the services of the municipality better. We don't have funds or enough funds to invest or to construct projects. Some of our activities were not benefitable. Some basic services were losing. So we discussed this thing with the public sector. We made announcements and we attracted these private sectors to come to us and declare their interest in participating with the municipality, and then we choose some of them. For example, to manage a public park. The public park wasn't well managed, and it used to close at 5:00 p.m. Now, after being managed by a public sector, it's providing better services, and it works late, up to 12 p.m. or sometimes 2:00 in the morning. We also managed to encourage the public sector to invest with us in managing some services like the slaughterhouse of the municipality. Now it's being run by the private sector and is doing very well. We had a very big problem at the beach. The seafront and the most beautiful thing in Gaza. And let me here stress that when you hear the name of Gaza, you sometimes imagine a distracted place, a place that is not a good place to visit or to live in. But I assure you, when you come to Gaza, you will find it maybe a very, very beautiful city and full of activities, full of life, cultural, sport, and business. The beach was in a mess. Now, we just put the plan. We encourage the architects and the planners to tell us what is the best thing to do on the seafront. And we declared this plan and started to implement, but we have no money. How can we do that? We now started the public-private partnership, and this policy worked very good. And we just assigned pieces on the beach, pieces of land, and asked the private sector to invest, to construct. We gave them the rules, the plans, what you can do, what you can't do. And in 4 years, now the seafront has been transformed in a better place, more beautiful, with a lot of possibilities for people, local people, foreign people, tourists, to have a good time at the beach. The plan is still under development. We believe that we might need another 5 to 10 years to complete the plan, but at least it's progressing. And we believe that the public-private partnership is a good method when you don't have funds, or even if you have funds, the private sector, if you give them the chance with some regulations, they can do a lot of things to the city.
Thank you, Mayor. Please, Taufik, the last 3 minutes, and then I will wrap up.
So we are talking about SDG and climate change as a whole, right here. Yeah. So, I mean, in Dhaka North, what we do is, I think the mayor believes in nature-based solution for sure. So be it canals, be it parks, be it open spaces. I mean, being a dense city, it is, I mean, any open space gets encroached easily. And legally, illegally, even other government agencies do that. But we remain vigilant. I mean, so, I mean, again, one example. So there was a large patch of land in one of the communities owned by a government agency, I mean, and which has been used by local people as a playing ground, as a common space. But the agency that owned this patch of land, all in a sudden decided that they want to make a, urban jungle, apartment buildings to accommodate so many people. And the moment we got to know that, we intervened. The mayor went to the highest leadership of the country and convinced them that, look, this is not the right way of doing it. Let's keep the place as it is. So I think in case of, I mean, that's the key. I mean, canals, I mean, again, it's a big challenge, very big challenge, very dense city. The informal households, informal settlements are being built, I mean, naturally besides the canals. So the canals get encroached, water bodies get encroached, all the waste being generated by those communities are going into the canals, water bodies. It's a continuous fight, but then again, I think we are winning that now. We are winning that battle because we are designing things in such a way that the canal and the water, I mean, these people living are separated by trees. It's again a nature-based solution, separated by a walkway for people to walk, bicycle. And this is by design we are doing it. I mean, so I think with infrastructures like these, I mean, we have to build in some infrastructure to, help the nature to thrive, to grow. Yep. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I think that the three of you gave us a lesson, and it's we cannot continue thinking governance as an abstract concept. No, we should start to see governance as a mean, as a process to improve our public and local management. No, I think that the three of you, but we also see this worldwide, are already localizing SDGs, are already implementing global agendas. But, however, we needed to do it best. We need to improve, we need to be more efficient, because we have small resources, even in some cases, as in Gaza, we have not resources at all for several things. So we need to be more efficient. So for that, we need collaboration. Urban and legal frameworks are not always so flexible to implement that collaboration, so we need also to involve informal arrangements. We need also to involve local communities. And there is also an opportunity to implement some of the innovative regulation. No? You told us about public-private partnerships. You told us about international cooperation agencies. You told us about city diplomacy. That is another lesson of global governance, no? and how to take governance to action. No? We are convinced in UN Habitat and in UN that multilateralism is changing right now. We need to improve also international cooperation. The multilateralism of the 21st century passed through city diplomacy, and of course that metropolitan and regional institutions must to lead the war in city diplomacy. You tell us that in Sao Paulo you are already making a metropolitan and local voluntary reviews of SDGs. We are proposing from UNHABITAT a global movement on metropolitan and local voluntary reviews. And that is so important because other cities that have not the capacity to monitor, to follow, to evaluate their practices can learn from systematizations that megacities or global cities can help us. No? So we invite you all to join to this global movement of metropolitan and local voluntary reviews. But I also want to close the panel with a more general impression that we from UNHABITAT had from this 4 days discussion here in Istanbul, and thanks to Maruf again. We really take note on the urgent need to mainstream anti-fragility resilience in urban policies at all levels, from national to local, but especially at the subnational level, metropolitan and regional. In an urban world that is becoming increasingly metropolitan, and that is what we have from the last data in UN Habitat. Actually, I can give you some of this afterwards. We have now the 60% of urban population living in metropolitan areas. This is a third of humanity. We have almost 2,000 metropolitan and regional areas in the world. In the next decade, by 2035, metropolis will home more than 1 billion metropolitan inhabitants in addition to the already ones. So we have a great challenge of collaboration. We cannot continue seeing cities only from the municipal barriers. No? All of you already said that before, but I think that we really need metropolitan and metropolises leading the implementation of the new urban agenda, and we take note of that from UNHABITAT. We will try to revamp, we will try to highlight, we will try to strengthen the role of metropolitan areas at the global concert. And again, thanks to you for all the lessons, for all the interchange, and to you for hearing us.
So thank you very much. I'll ask the panelists to stay, not the moderator. We have, we still have another half hour until the end. Very briefly, I will ask the other panelists to come up here. We'll have time only for 3 questions, but I think it's fair that we give the opportunity. So if I can ask Lisanda Lamagne, Isa Cassis, and Claudia Lopez to come up for a second. And it's, this section is going to be moderated by my colleague, Laura Valdez, who is the head of policy at Metropolis.
Perfect. Yeah. Test? Okay. Perfect. Okay. For that.
Sí.
Okay, welcome everybody to the last session of today's World Metropolitan Day. I'm delighted to be here with such a distinguished panel. This session is called Global Perspectives, and as Jody mentioned earlier today, it's going to be a very quick session. We are going to have one question for myself and then 2 questions from the audience, and that would be really it. This session is called Global Perspectives because we all know that we are at a crossroads. We know that the clock is ticking for the Paris Agreement. We know that we have 7 years to slash emissions to 43%. And we also know that most probably we're not going to get there. Climate change is no longer a distant reality, and as we have heard from everybody here today, it is a challenge that we have all today. The UN has even said that we are at the moment of a new era of global boiling. So the context that we have today is very, very challenging. And whilst the audience thinks about their own questions, let me give you one of my own. We are in a context of climate change, of biodiversity loss, and I want to hear from all of you about how this has changed your perception of your city, about how it has changed the ways in which you think of governing and managing your territories. And maybe a last point around what would be the main takeaways that people here in the audience, but also at home today, have to take home and take to their own territories and maybe implement. So a long question, I know, this would be the one for me, but maybe we have another one from the audience. Anybody that wants to intervene, just raise your hands and we'll give you a microphone. Very quick question and then we'll go. Okay, we see one hand here.
Çok teşekkür ediyorum.
Thank you very much. I'm Ayşe Ünlü. I'm a high architect, senior architect. Right now, my family lives in a rural area, and I've been living in the metropole since 1985. Istanbul is composed of 39 districts and 151 villages. With a decree in 2014, the village law that was applicable in 1924, in 2016, all of a sudden, they said only in the metropolises, the rural villages will become neighborhoods. And I finished my master's degree on the green areas, and because I had these roots with the village and also metropolitan, my question is, by the way, when I consider Turkey with its entire borders, there are inspiring people here, and I believe in the human race because we have come to this point after serious tests, also in 1850 in Istanbul, 50,000 died out of coronavirus. And in these, basically dips, we all become together, and right now we are going through one of them. My question is, Turkey, as you know, is, distributed to 7 regions. We are the 100th year of Republic, and we're right now discussing Istanbul, but we know of the story of Istanbul very well, and the first population count of Istanbul, the Turkey's population was 13 million in 1927 in the first poll of population, and right now only in Istanbul 20 million people are living. So you can see the entire country, all of Turkey here. Just from the example from Sarıyer district, there are 13 neighborhoods, and people migrated to Istanbul. So we need to also make the peripheries also safe. And while the biggest solution, for instance, in big metropolitans, they have already made use of the peripheries, but we have transportation problem reaching out 150 villages in Istanbul. So my question is, in Turkish borders, there are 7 geographical regions. And what can we do to make sure that there is a healthy coverage of all these peripheries and boundaries in those 7 regions?
Okay, so we have one question around bringing service, a very important one which you are all very acquainted. As I see no more hands, let's start with these 2 questions. How do we get services to the people in the metropolitan area, in big cities, but also how is the global context that we have today with climate change the ways you're managing and thinking about your own territories? Let me start maybe from the end with the mayor of Bogota.
These are questions for a couple of days, maybe. But let me put on the table sort of a couple of approaches that I think might be useful. So I think the proximity of municipal governments are the key, strongest factor. The fact that we are close to the people, close to the needs, close to the voices, is what makes us all accountable as mayors in general. So there are 2 different ways in which working together and building governance in a territory that is larger than our municipal boundaries has 2 different approaches. Either you keep the electoral democratic accountable base at the municipal level and treat the regional governance or institutional metropole governance as a more technical, collective approach to tackle issues such as transportation or sanitation or security. But keep this local level very political, accountable, elected, and then the next level, a more technical, common-based governance approach. That's one thing. Or another example is just to build those 2 layers, the local and the more metropolitan regional, as 2 different political institutions who are both elected. So you voted for the mayor, but you also voted directly for the sort of the regional mayor or the metropolitan mayor. And citizens are able to elect both, the municipal and the metropolitan. Or you keep the metropolitan base elected, and then the metropole regional level non-elected, but as a sort of administrative body to coordinate actions. There are 2 different models. There are different examples in the world in which this goes. I will suggest, let me give the example of Bogota and Colombia. So we have Also, sort of 6 nature regions, natural regions. The whole country, which is 52 million people, is divided into 6 natural regions, big enough. Then we are divided into sort of 1,100 municipalities. Each of municipality elect a mayor and elect a council. And then all these 1,100 municipalities are united into 32 provinces who elect a governor and an assembly. But let's say, for example, Bogota, which is the capital, is the largest city. Just for you to have an idea, the second largest city of Colombia has 2.5 million people. Bogota alone has 8 million people. So Bogota alone has its own statutory base as a capital. So it's at the same time a municipal government, a district capital government, and a province state government. We hold the 3 in the same person, which is the mayor. But we are surrounded by 28 small municipalities, and we share with them almost all the services. But we didn't have any form of metropolitan area governance with them. Usually the mayor of Bogota has the worst relationship ever with the governor of Cundinamarca. They never work together. They're always in sort of political competition, who's more important. So it was so difficult to create a body of governance to work together. And I think this is a matter of humbleness rather than political fight. So I came to the government and I said, look, it doesn't matter if Bogota is 8 million people and my small vicinity is 200,000 people. We are a family. We're just sharing, the same house. We need to clean the house every day. We need to cook for everybody in the family every day. We're sharing, the round table and the TV. It's like a family. These are just different rooms for the same family. And we decided to change the Constitution and to create a horizontal, and that's my point. If you build something that is vertical, if you tell the vicinities of Istanbul or Bogota or any large city, Sao Paulo, which is surrounded by 39 municipalities, right, including Sao Paulo. So usually it's the big city telling the small boys, look out, boys, you cannot live without us. You better surrender to us. You acknowledge that we are the big city, that we have the means, the money, the fiscal base, and you surrender to us. And that's it. That was the old model. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. We cannot ask a democratic governance to our city, a collective collaboration at the civil society level, at the economic level, and then at the political level. Just the big boy in town has to surrender everybody else around because they are smaller. We are trying a different approach in Bogota, which is say, look, there is a fact of different sizes and capacities. That's true. But that difference doesn't mean that the small one has to surrender to the big one. Let's build a more horizontal and collective approach. Let's include the province, which exists in the case of Colombia. So the province of Cundinamarca, within which Bogota is located, we're going to share the same level of decision-making with the governor of Cundinamarca and the mayor of Bogota for budget decisions and for appointing the director of the Metropolitan region. Both the vote of the governor and the mayor of Bogota will be needed to reach out a decision. in budget, because we're going to provide the largest budget. So we're not going to be one vote out of 28 when we put 90% of the money, right? So we need that balance on that size. Budget decisions and appointed decisions of the director of the metropolitan region. But beyond that, making the plan of investments, making the transportation plan, making the waste management plan, making the food security plan, making the water and energy security plan. Every municipality that belongs to the every municipality that belongs to the metropolitan region has a vote. So Bogota is a vote in the water plan. Bogota is one vote in the energy plan. Bogota is one vote in the food security plan. So it forces Bogota, the big city, to reach agreements with the small towns and the governor of the province, to reach really agreements, to try to reach consensus-based decisions on the critical issues. So that's a new model. It's a sort of an intermediate model. The director of the metropolitan region of Bogota and Cundinamarca won't be politically elected, will be appointed by the municipalities, the city of Bogota, and the governor of Cundinamarca. So we are trying to build a different approach in which not to put on top of 2-3 political appointments, mayor of the local municipalities, mayor of Bogota, and the governor of Cundinamarca, to add a 4th political elected layer. We think that's more cumbersome and will increase political competition rather than collective action and practical cooperation. So instead of going on that path, we decided to create this more politically run by mayors and governors and the mayor of Bogota, and to create sort of a balance in which we don't ask the municipalities just to submit to the interests of the large city, but to actively, collectively decide the key issues. We see if it works. And a final thing is we decided to add something that, people or metropolitan issues used to be closed, and now for the security issues, transportation issues, but we decided to add the 3 key components that I mentioned before. So Bogota is the largest consumer area, but our food is not produced in Bogota, and I'm sure the food of Istanbul is not produced within the boundaries of Istanbul, right? But the closest the food of Istanbul or Bogota is produced, the better for the planet. The water probably doesn't come within the boundaries of the large city. It comes from the surroundings. Also the energy, right? So in addition to security, in addition to transportation and traffic, now we're taking into the metropolitan governance body these 3 issues. And I will say, if there is something that teaches us all immediately. I was elected in 2020, 2 months after COVID-19 pandemic came in. 2 months after, And if the birds, if nature doesn't know about boundaries, viruses, they don't know, they can care less about boundaries. COVID threatened us all. And we either collaborate to save the hospitals in first place so that the hospitals could take care of us. If the hospitals collapse, the whole life collapses. If we weren't able to collectively agree on vaccines sharing, it doesn't care if the people of Bogota is vaccinated, but my neighbor in Chia or in another municipality is not vaccinated, right? So it teaches us all to move forward and to be practical, less politically ideologically polarized and more practical on the issues. There is this big, and let me finish with this, sorry about the time, but there are these two says from two popular, historically remembered politicians in the United States. Fiorello LaGuardia, who was mayor of New York, says, look, there is no a democratic or a Republican way to pick up the garbage. There is a way to pick up the garbage, period, right? And also there is another one by a US president who says, every time that I think the burdens of the presidency of the United States are too heavy, I always remind myself that it could be worse, I could be a mayor. Because that's the fact. We are the first responders as mayors, as local subnational elected officials of everything. But we are working here on different ideologies and sizes and parties and religions based as municipal governments, because ultimately, regardless of religion or political tradition or democratic level, we are facing the same challenges of education, climate, water, food security, digital transformation. And that's well known to all of us. And we can collaborate more basically and practically on these issues.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for bringing us closer to Bogota, and thank you for the beautiful metaphor about our metropolis being a home. And sometimes some homes might be a little bit dysfunctional, but collaboration helps. And next to the mayor, we have our colleague Taufik, who is an advisor to the mayor of Dhaka North. And before in your intervention, you talk about innovation and how it can really make us have cities that are more livable. So in the context that we have been hearing today, what are your thoughts on collaboration? What are your thoughts on bringing services closer to people, on reacting to climate change? The floor is yours.
I think collaboration among, maybe cities, learning from each other, collaboration with city to other operators, like be it private, be it government, be it international. I think that is the way forward, because again, if we talk about climate change, we are probably losing the race as we are in today. And the more we try to learn, create new solutions, probably we are going to lose out of valuable time, because the solution exists. The solutions to climate change does exist to a great extent. Maybe not my city has done it, but some other city has done it, or some other agency has done it. So all we have to do is, collaborate with them, bring in that solution, learn from that solution, learn from the way they have addressed the challenge, and implement, adapt this into our cities. But again, there are some also very basic ways to, address climate change. It's nature-based solutions. Encourage nature to take its course. Plant more trees, create open space, and very basic things. Let nature thrive in the urban areas, because that definitely benefits the people who are living in the city, but also, the animals, the insects, the biodiversity gets protected, because we are becoming a more urbanized world. We are. That's the reality of it. And if we, set aside nature, if we set aside climate change, it is not going to work. We are heading into a doomsday, I guess. Maybe after 30 years, maybe after 50 years. But I'll give you one more example, like Dhaka, Bangladesh, lies in the downstream of India, China, and Nepal, the whole Himalayan plate. So what happens, any adverse effect on that Himalayan plate gets trickled down through Dhaka. So be it extreme rain, be it heat wave. So, you know, and so that's the climate change that we are seeing today. I mean, right now, I mean, and we have to adapt now. We have to, I mean, bring in solutions right now. So collaboration, learning from others, bringing in, importing, I would say, importing from other countries, other cities is the way forward, because we don't have much time in our hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this key idea that cities are not different than nature. Cities are part of an ecosystem and need to be thought like that. And this really brings me to our next speaker, the mayor of Gaza. In this context of climate change, you talk about the difficulties also in bringing services to the people, water, waste management. What are some of the key takeaways that other cities could implement in their own context?
I believe that the main two keywords in that, among others, of course, cooperation and awareness. Cooperation among all stakeholders in the same city, cooperation between neighboring municipalities, which sometimes is not being implemented, and international cooperation as well. Awareness is also a very important thing. If you make all people aware, they can come up with solutions, they can help to implement the plans and the solutions. And I think that's the main keywords that we can stress on.
Thank you very much. Collaboration is certainly key in the context that we have today, in the complexity and the urgency that we are living. And I'm going to move on to our next speaker from Sao Paulo. Deputy Secretary, you talked beforehand around governance, around connecting the dots between these different multi-levels that we have. What are some of the lessons maybe that you could also share with our audience?
Eu acho que para São Paulo nós temos que
For Sao Paulo, there are two issues that we need to focus on. A participatory administration, governance. Well, we have hundreds of councils, both in civil terms and public terms, like Bogota. We also have district municipalities, smaller municipalities. We have 32 smaller district municipalities, and they are also composed of neighborhoods, and everyone is doing what they're supposed to do in terms of governance. But in this participatory administration, we have some areas that have big problems, big issues, for instance, from a public point of view.
50% of these districts are made up of homeless people. And when this is the problem of a municipality, of course, it's a big challenge. I mean, we have to, when there's this problem in a district, we have to solve the problem together. We cannot leave the district alone to solve this problem. When Martha came, actually, we turned these councils into a public policy. We have set up these hundreds of councils, so as foreign relations, we have also certain responsibilities, and so we can also try to overcome the challenges together. So all these councils work together, and we very efficiently implement the solutions that come out of these councils. Sometimes, for instance, racism is a huge problem in Brazil. From the top to the bottom, it presents itself in different forms. So racism is something we need to eliminate, and also inequality. These are two important concepts we need to be combating against, both in terms of the metropolitan municipality and the district municipalities. And so our citizens actually feel this, feel that there is some work being done on racism and inequality. We have the highest number of women in our metropolitan municipality, especially the African origin citizens are now working more and more in our municipalities. Then when this happens, of course, the population feels represented when there's African origin citizens are more and more in the municipalities. They feel represented, and we're working on this very strongly, and we have come quite a way.
Leading with others.
Bu diğerleriyle bir arada yaşama konusuna değindiğiniz için Barcelona dijitalleşme başkan yardımcısı da kendi konuşmasında bundan bahsetmişti. Yani bütün bunlar sizinle ilgili, yani siz Elisa Hanım bununla ilgili ne dersiniz? Çünkü bunlar sizin bağlamınızda da geçerli konular diye düşünüyorum. Evet, ben de aslında Barcelona'daki durumu düşünüyordum siz bunları anlatırken. Çünkü bir sürü insan şöyle diyor, yani muhteşem bir şehir, biliyorsunuz hep öyle bilinir. Böyle işte modern, kozmopolit, gittikçe yeşeren, filizlenen ama içeride bir de son derece karmaşık bir toplum var. Mesela kaç kişi mesela tatile çıkmadı bu yaz diye baktığımız zaman gerçekten 3 aileden bir tanesi sadece tatile çıkabilmiş bu yaz.
Of elderly people in Barcelona, and a quarter of this have a very bad situation, I mean a bad health situation, and they live alone. And when we were talking about how to allow nature in our cities and how to provide public space, quality in public space, we are talking about these people. I mean, of course, we have to work for these people to go on holidays. Of course, we have to work for health for elderly people. But these people are often alone at home. And I believe if we provide green public space where children can play, where people can play chess in the streets, if we invest in pedestrian ways instead of these big roads going and crossing our cities, I think people will start recognizing each other. We will create communitarian spaces. We will enhance happiness of our citizenship. We will be working not only because we believe that green agenda must be in our cities, but social agenda is in our cities, that we will changing the conditions of our citizenship. So when we are talking about nature-based solutions, we are talking about the health of our citizen. We are talking about hope. We are talking about opportunities as well. And we can talk about only public space, green spaces, pedestrian ways, but we can talk about infrastructures as well. For example, in Barcelona, we have been working with the local council and the regional government for a tramway. This tramway will cross all the city, and it will connect the district where we have the major vulnerabilities of the metropolitan area with all districts in the city. Of course, this infrastructure will provide a better public space, a narrow avenue, a greener street, but it goes beyond that. It will connect people who before probably won't go in the same wagon. And I think that's very interesting because we were talking about green agenda, and of course, it's crucial for our challenges based on climate change. But we cannot forget about the results that this agenda must provide, and it's to change everyday's lives for the ones who are invisible in our cities. And I think that's very important to have it in mind, and that's why we are in politics, of course.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. So really creating resilience is about bringing people together, bringing communities together, and this really speaks about what the mayor of Ramallah was saying before around hope, around recovery, about working with the youth. Any last thoughts to share with our audience, Mayor?
Well, thank you. Indeed, in such events we learn. We not only share what we have, but we learn. And for me, I have lots of take-home notes, indeed. I like this nature-based solutions and how we reach in a better metropole concept using nature. From the tram idea, by crossing from urban to rural to urban, and see what the people want. And what they want practically is herbal. They want the combination of both. And I believe we can together reach a better metropolitan by respecting nature first. Work together on setting a positive distraction, let me use it this way, and try to use the green space in the best way possible by, for example, encouraging this new thing that I also enjoyed listening to, which is the therapeutic garden. Things that grab the attention and the buy-in from those who elected the mayors and the councils to run the show. I believe when we talk about nature and respecting nature, it's not only decarbonization and this classic way of looking at nature, but rather realizing again the power of nature in connecting people and land.
Thank you very much. So truly we see that we cannot achieve sustainable urban development without people, without governance, that cooperation, accountability, proximity are all elements that we need to have in our metropolises. I want to thank my very distinguished speakers of today. Thank you very much for your words. Thank you very much for being here. And I'm going to give the floor to Jordi for the closing.
This final session has done a lot of the summarizing for me, so we can consider this done. There's no need for a big summary. I think it was a beautiful closure. We heard that nature belongs to metropolis. There's no contradiction. We heard that there's no contradiction either between a social agenda and a green agenda. One and the other are the same, and they cannot go separately. We heard how nature is our ally in building healthy cities, safe cities, connected cities. So that was a summary. I'm not going to go for one. But I do want to say something about the context of this World Metropolitan Day, which with UN Habitat we've been promoting for a few years now. We've had here Rafa Forero from the Metro Hub of UN Habitat, which is based in Bogota. We also had Antonella continue moderating the first panel, which is going to start a new hub, a new Metro Hub in Italy. We had an important development in June where the UN Habitat Assembly, for the first time, incorporated in one of their resolutions a reference to metropolitan governance. It was about time to have the official documents. We will keep pushing to turn World Metropolitan Day an official day in the UN calendar. And all of this is not because we like the word, but because we are all convinced that the scale of cities nowadays can only be this, what we've just heard, the one that connects across borders, across concepts, and across vertical divides. That governing cities without integrating all these aspects is old-fashioned, it's ineffective, and as in particular the mayor of Gaza and also Taufik from Dhaka were saying, we cannot afford the time to keep repeating the errors of the past. The urgency is too big for us to not do it the Metropolitan way. We're convinced, we have convinced people around, and we have been very happy to partner up with Marmara Municipalities Union this time, together with UN Habitat and Metropolis, to organize it here in Istanbul, where we've heard very welcome. I don't know if Jamil Arslan is here in the room. Yes, Jamil, sorry. I was looking for you farther back. Jamil and all the team, once again, congratulations on this amazing event. Thanks so much for having us. And now the closing words is for you.
Thank you, Jordi. This is very kind of you. I want to continue with Turkish.
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, Metropolis and UN Habitat co-organized this World Metropolitan Day together with Marmara Urban Forum, and we're very happy, delighted to have hosted you in Istanbul. Jordi, Rafael, Maria, I would like to thank you all very much for making this happen. We have the president of Metropolis and the Metropolitan Mayor of Bogota, and to all the panelists and speakers, to all the esteemed participants, we would like to genuinely, wholeheartedly thank you. Maruf this year has been more innovative and more inspiring. Definitely, we have come up with more inspiring conclusions, outcomes. A couple of things before I close. For the last 4 days, I've been trying to actually follow all the sessions, and my conclusion is that our world, compared to 200 years before, is in a better condition. Infant mortality is lower, people live longer, women participate in labor and systems more. There are more open systems, flexible systems, but inequalities don't go down. Racism, xenophobia don't reduce. Authoritarianism or authoritarian trends, unfortunately, are not eliminated. So there are good things, but there are so many challenges we have to solve. Sezen Aksu, one of a very popular singer in Turkey, says, "We're not innocent." And I think that's valid for all of us. We're not innocent. There are mistakes that we have made, and we have to be facing these mistakes. On another level, though, I think we realize now we are not the owners of the nature, but we are a part of it. Nature is not something we can treat as we wish. We are an integral part of nature, and we need to be looking for a more responsible consumption habits and trends. This is what we owe to next generations. And in the level of municipalities have to establish systems that actually put front the happiness and welfare and prosperity of people. Because when we elect municipality workers, we are electing them so that they serve us better. So we need to be making sure that this happens. On the national level, authoritarian approaches should be excluded, local management should be strengthened, and there should be more accountability and collaboration between the institutions should definitely be ensured. And on an international level, I mean, we know IMF, World Bank, UN, they were all established because of the consequences of the First and Second World Wars. But right now, we are really tired of all the cliche concepts, and the international organizations unfortunately fail to come up with solutions to the problems of the humanity. So we need, again, a functioning international system with the solidarity of all these institutions. So we all need new, open, democratic systems, all of us. And today we have listened to many inspiring speeches. Thank you very much for that. I'm an optimistic person, and with this optimism, I would say that the good will always prevail, and the bad will never be able to win, because optimism is a revolutionary power. So we will fight, and I'm sure we're going to come up with good results. Thank you very much. You made us very excited and happy and delighted to be here by being here. And we'll have lunch next door. Thank you once again.